What is up, man? It's been a minute.
Tommy, how are you, man?
Man, I'm pushing through. It's we're finishing up the end of the year, coming to gosh, it seems weird, man. I just did a show today for where I worked, and they said, "Oh, we're 3 weeks away from Christmas, to the day." That doesn't seem right, man. We're coming up to the end of the year, and New Year in wrestling too, man. New Year for the podcast.
Yeah, technically in 2022 we'll be hitting year 3 for the podcast.
That's
'Cause We're in,
crazy.
we're, in, we're in season 2 right now.
Yeah, yeah. It seems like we
Yeah,
were just
that's
talking about
nuts.
the end of season one.
Yeah,
I feel like our lives have gotten a little different this past year, but we're making it work, man. We're glad to be bringing you another episode,
so
episode
many changes
76.
for those of you guys that are listening on the podcast.
Yeah,
So many changes you could see in my background. That's why you guys need to be subscribed to our YouTube channel so you can see what I'm talking about. But I
yeah.
got the office going on right behind me. I got some sports memorabilia, some Red Sox right about there somewhere. And yeah, so I got my little setup going on.
Looking nice, man. I
Yeah,
dig it.
man.
You like
Just
my I
look
know
at
you like my
that.
setup, just a bunch of white space back here.
Yeah. But anyway, we're getting through, and are you ready to start episode 76?
I am, man. I've been waiting for this one for a minute.
All right, let's go. Let's hit it. Let's
Do it.
go.
Agility from the champion. Oh, deep six. That could be it. Delivers this deep six.
Good afternoon. It is 4 p.m. Eastern Time. This is episode 76. I'm joined by my co-host Tommy. Tommy, how are you, man?
Man, I'm doing good, dude. It seems like forever since I've seen you, man. It seems like the last time me and you talked on camera, the Rays and the Red Sox were still playing in the playoffs.
Yeah, I had to go in a little bit of a hiding when the Red Sox lost to Houston. That was just
Yeah.
ridiculous. I don't understand how.
Hey, hold on. Wait. Why did you get to take a little time off when they lost to the Astros? But I had to be here and take the brunt of it the next day, man.
I don't understand how a team is literally steamrolling the Houston Astros. They're steamrolling
Oh yeah.
like I was telling everybody the series is over. Houston's losing. It's over. And then the Red Sox completely shut off like a light switch.
Yeah, would they score like 2 runs in like with 7 hits in 2 games or something like that, or even worse? I think they disappeared, man. They really disappeared
right away, and so that was a little disheartening because I just felt that this was going to be the Red Sox were looking good. I felt like this was going to be the Red Sox year. I mean, they knocked off a great team, Tampa Bay Rays, in which Tampa Bay Rays was the favorite to win.
Yes.
And they started steamrolling Houston Astros.
Yeah.
Houston Astros didn't even come to play for the first 3 games.
And hey,
then
man,
in the middle of game 3 or game 4, something just shut off, and then the Red Sox just forgot how to hit.
And I know we're talking in a little bit in the past, just because me and you haven't interacted on camera, like we said. But yeah, that Red Sox team, I think could have definitely kept up with the offensive firepower and the pitching of Atlanta, and we could have seen an entirely different World Series champion. But yeah, man, moving from baseball, obviously we're both big football fans. I know your Jets aren't doing too good. The Broncos got a big game tomorrow against Kansas City Sunday night for first place. But I think what people want to listen to, Deep Six Pro Wrestling Podcast is the wrestling, man. We've had some major things happen in the last, man, what seems like about a month and a half since I think we've done a show together. So we're preparing for day one. The next WWE pay-per-view. We're still coming off of Full Gear, man. What do we got to talk about today?
Yeah, so we got some we had St. John's Jefferson from our Facebook group says, "What's up, Tommy?"
My man St. John. Oh my goodness.
Do you know this guy?
I do, man. That's crazy. I haven't heard from him in a bit, man. Back from my choir days in high school, middle school, and high school. That's awesome, man. Good to see somebody shooting us out on the podcast, shouting us out on the podcast.
Yeah, right from the Facebook group, AEW
Hey,
WWE
represent
fans.
St. John. Good to hear from you, my man.
Yeah, so those of you guys that have been wondering, I've been in big transition moving. Tommy held it down for a couple shows, a watch along, and then another AEW show that they did. But I've been in transition moving from one place to another, and it's just been crazy. Also trying to figure out and hope and pray that I have good internet connection at my
Yeah.
at my new place, which I do, thank God. So yeah, it's just been very it's been a transitioning period for sure, but now I'm getting settled in. And as you can see, I got my studio mic right over there.
It's somewhere over
It's
there.
there. Yeah, right there.
You can
So I'm
see a little
trying to
niche
set
of
up
it.
that computer, so get that going. And yeah, we're trying to get set up over here. Get ready for the new year. Get ready for day one.
Yeah, man.
Where we're hoping to launch something big on day one. We think day one would be fitting, so we're hoping to launch the Aftermath Pro Wrestling Podcast by then on day one.
Hey, we're doing just a little Christmas tease, just a little bit of a Christmas, spread the holiday cheer, give a little tease for it. We're excited about it.
But if that doesn't work, probably by like either Royal Rumble or WrestleMania, it'll be like a big. We want to make it like a big thing. So moving on, we have a show to talk about.
Yeah.
So, I want to backtrack a little bit.
Okay.
I want to backtrack because we haven't really covered a lot of stuff recently. But let's talk about Charlotte and Becky really quick. The interaction that Becky had on MMA Radio, if I said that right.
Yeah.
The MMA podcast. And then their match at Survivor Series, which I thought was very good.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a really good match, which I think you could go in expecting that it would have been.
So let me tell you something. For a match with no titles on the line, just a one-on-one grudge match, we'll call it. One, I was very excited to see these girls go, and I'll tell you why. The reason why is the storytelling. On top of that, the interview with Becky Lynch on MMA Radio.
Yeah.
And like there is legit beef between the two.
Okay, so I think that's kind of what I wanted to ask you because I know there's
I
a
don't
lot.
think that's all a work.
Okay, that good because I know there's some people around the internet wrestling community that think that part of this could be a work. Some of the stuff that they've done, whether that's on TV or in interviews, is a little forced. I think with everything that's gone on, and especially with, I don't know if you've heard this, but I was reading something before the podcast. Charlotte and Andrade called off their engagement. So they're split. So I wonder if just the toll of Andrade not being there and being the champion and Becky coming back and kind of usurping that top spot again. I wonder if that's what caused the beef or if there was something, when they were both here on the road to WrestleMania 35, that kind of led to this, because it really does not seem like this is a work. I think there's too much real life animosity, and whether that's, over who has the most titles, who's the champion, whatever. It doesn't matter. Right now, I think it's clear to say that this is definitely a real life beef that these two have.
It may not be as significant as what it's made out to be, both during the interview and both on air as well. Yeah. But the build-up, the interview, everything, it had me invested into watching these two girls go.
Yeah.
It had me invested. I was very excited to see that match. Hey, listen, I mean, that says a lot for the past couple of years. The Survivor Series has really been nothing to be excited about. I was in Brooklyn that same day for a wedding, just 10 minutes away. With traffic, it's really like a half hour to an hour, or subway by 15 minutes. But I digress. Anyway, I was that close to Barclays Center and was tempted to have a little after party of my own
Go over
with a
there.
couple of my buddies, just go right to Survivor Series. But
Should have, man.
it just would have been too much. I was suit and tie, didn't have the clothes, wasn't ready.
Nah,
But,
man, we should have seen it on camera. Shouldn't have seen you front row.
Yeah, well, you know what? The way the attendance has been, I mean, I could have gotten
Yeah,
upper level seat. They could have moved me down.
Could have moved down.
Speaking of which, the Raw attendance the next night in Barclays Center was pretty bad.
Oh, really? Was it? Okay, because I know
half
that
the arena was full.
I know they came to Indy the Monday after I went to Dynamite, the Monday after Full Gear, and I know that there was a lot of good spots that were still left open from that show as well. So, yeah, that doesn't surprise me.
Joe, one of our co-hosts, Joe's, that hops on for the pay-per-view sometimes, he was at the Raw. I was trying to get him to send me pictures for like the to see what the arena looks like. But I couldn't. I guess he was so invested into the show and couldn't do it at the moment. But
he was digging those storylines, man.
The whole upper level, to my understanding, was all blacked out.
Yep.
And then you had half of the camera side. I'm sorry, half of the side of the arena that's not on camera.
The hard cam.
The hard cam side was half empty.
Okay.
So I would say tops 50% of the arena was filled that night. And
now,
Brooklyn of all places. Okay, like, how does this happen?
That maybe, and I wonder if it's that reaction is because it's Brooklyn, like you said. Now, when AEW was here in Indianapolis, top bowl was completely filled off. The hard cam, you just had the camera and a few stragglers, and that was about it. But Barclays Center versus, the Indiana State Fairgrounds is a little different in I'd say in terms of credibility. But yeah, man, I think I made this comment to you getting back on the Becky Lynch storyline. I made the comment to you before we started the show. It seems like WWE has been getting a little bit more risky with their storylines and letting, I don't know if real world, hate or animosity or emotion, whatever it is, come through. It is helping, but we're seeing it in this storyline. We're seeing it in some of the matches and in some of the promos. We saw them mention some of the releases and some of the, signees, or even I think Edge referenced the Miz promo, the name drop that happened between CM Punk and MJF. So yeah, I think this storyline kind of ties in with all of that, and that everything is just really, we're not getting to PG-13 levels, back in the Attitude Era levels, but I definitely think WWE is starting to answer AEW. They're starting to turn the notch a little bit up and going with a little bit more risky content and saying, shit or whatever they do, or just kind of flowing back into that TV 14 rating. What's your thought on that? Because we're seeing that in this story by allowing the real life heat between the two, Charlotte and Becky.
Well, I'm seeing a little bit more effort in the shows, in the writing. Not to say it's good, because there's a lot of like little stuff that doesn't make sense. Like, for instance, Liv Morgan in our promo on Monday night, shooting back and forth with Becky, which I thought was good promo, but it didn't make sense, because the Liv Morgan saying that because of Becky's big contract, Liv Morgan's
Ruby Riott
friends, were released over time and what have you. But Becky Lynch is only making $1 million a year.
Yeah,
that's it.
That flows well.
The writers are making it seem, the writers want the fans to make you believe that it's because of Becky's contract that Liv Morgan, like her friends have gotten released by WWE.
Sarah Logan and Ruby Riott. Yeah,
it's because WWE is cutting their budget and trying to look more profitable by making all these releases so they can sell off in a year or so.
Yeah.
So they're kind of insulting my intelligence and the fans' intelligence a little bit.
I can agree with that. I feel like they are dialing into the more realistic side and kind of focusing on stuff like that, maybe more contracts and releases and stuff. But yes, I agree with you. It was kind of poor timing with the report that came after, what was it, Forbes, that released the contract numbers. It said Roman and Brock were making like $5 million a year, something like that.
Yeah, some of these wrestlers, some of the mid carders, and they're only making like 80,000-90,000.
Yeah,
Liv Morgan might be making 90,000-95,000.
which I'm sure we'll talk about because it seems like that'll be one of the matches at day one. But yeah, man, that promo, I think, again, I think you hit it on the head. The content is getting better, but it's not fully there yet. We're getting to that. Okay, we're starting to let our fans decide the show, but we're still, hey, we want to tell you who to like. We want to tell you what you need to know going into the show, and not be able to form your own opinions and become knowledgeable about what's going on the show by yourself. So it's a step in the right direction. I definitely think that if you've watched WWE consistently over the past few weeks, they've been improving.
They definitely have. For sure. They've definitely been improving, and and a lot of their improvements is answering back from what AEW has been doing.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping that there's more of a sense of urgency there. But
And some
yeah, man.
contracts in AEW are coming up. We might see some big first time what seems like moves from AEW to WWE. I know Big Swole just announced her leave from the company. I think she could fit in really well in WWE's women's division. And there's some other people who could be coming off those contracts. Maybe a guy like Joey Janela or Kip Sabian that we could see make that switch from AEW to WWE. But yeah, I think you said it right. I don't want to say it's fully a response to AEW, but WWE is seeing what is on the other channel, seeing the ratings come out each week, and trying to make an effort to get back to where they can draw in the fans on a weekly basis and draw back in those casual wrestling fans or even just somebody who's channel surfing.
For sure. So moving on. Yeah, so we'll see how things go. I mean, again, we had the draft about 6 to 8 weeks ago.
Yes.
The matchups, the feuds are looking fresher, which is fine, and I see a little bit more effort.
Seems like we're saying that for the first time in years.
But I know, but they got to do better though. They got to keep the ball rolling here. All right, so let's talk about WWE Day 1. Day 1 being January 1st, which is on a Saturday. I don't know if that's an afternoon or a late afternoon or early evening pay-per-view. But kind of interesting that the pay-per-view is on a Saturday. WWE is known since the mid-90s forever doing Sunday pay-per-views.
Yeah.
Unless it's an NXT
or the random in your house
or NXT UK.
Yeah.
But so this is the first WWE pay-per-view that I can recall that's not on a Sunday, and I don't count the Saudi Arabia ones.
Yeah, that's in this country.
Yeah.
Cyber Tuesday, maybe.
Okay.
Or Taboo Tuesday, Cyber Sunday, whatever, one of those.
Yeah, Taboo Tuesday.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Cyber
so
Sunday,
I miss those pay-per-views. Like the Mondays used to be SummerSlam, the Survivor Series used to be Thanksgiving Eve.
Yeah,
Royal Rumbles used to be like there was a couple Saturday nights in there. Sundays, WrestleManias used to be Sunday afternoon, so I kind of like that. But moving on, we have a couple matches that are a couple of them to me are definitely happening. A couple of them might be penciled in. I got this information off of CBS Sports,
Okay.
just to get the updated
Hey,
card.
hey,
So I'm
they're
citing
pretty
from
good
them.
they're pretty good at getting, guessing the rest of the card. I
Yeah.
give them credit.
We have we got Biggie versus Kevin Owens versus Seth Rollins. Is this Kevin Owens' last hurrah in WWE that you think, knowing that his contract is coming up in January? Or is WWE put him in a big spot here, hoping that maybe he'll re-sign? I'm just trying to figure out what's happening here, because he was floundering for a couple months, came back to Raw.
Yeah.
Now they're trying to make him important again, and they have him in this big title match.
Yeah. It seems
I'm
like
trying to figure out what the deal is with this.
it seems like it's been a tale of two halves for Kevin Owens for this year. Last year we saw him last man standing match, Royal Rumble at Tropicana Field. He was wrestling with Roman Reigns in probably one of the better matches of the year. And sadly in front of no crowd. And then, like you said, it just seemed like he kind of disappeared, just kind of floundered. He had a really good, I forget if it was last man standing or false count anywhere match with Sami Zayn, kind of continued their rivalry. And then he just kind of, was there. And, there's the tough thing about the speculation with these contracts is there's so many, it seems like whenever there's a big person whose contract comes up, the next month there's a report that, hey, this person's contract's coming up. We got Johnny Gargano's contract coming up after.
Oh, yeah. From what I hear, he's not resigning
after War Games. I mean, that's tomorrow.
This might be his last hurrah.
Exactly. You got Kevin Owens. I know there's some other names mixed in there that I'm sure we'll get to at a later point. But if there is a guy that I just feel like you need to kind of keep around in your company, it's Kevin Owens. He's consistently put on fantastic, and I use that word lightly, fantastic matches for 7 years or 6 years on the main roster. I mean, I remember where I was his first match against Cena, where he got the surprise win. He's phenomenal. I think that you could still set up a story. It doesn't, we're not getting the Rocket and in Roman Reigns this year at WrestleMania. If you want to do Brock and him again, which I'm sure is what it will lead to, whatever. Throw Kevin Owens in there and let him take the pin. You make both guys look good, and that's fine with me. That's a 3-person match, and Kevin Owens will bump for both Reigns and Lesnar. But yeah, man, I'm hoping this isn't his last match. I do still think Reigns takes the win. I think it's obvious that he's gonna mow down the competition until.
Oh, you mean Biggie?
Biggie.
Okay.
Sorry. Yes. Hey, man, I'll see Biggie and Kevin Owens too at WrestleMania. But yeah, the spot's there for him to have a match at WrestleMania. But if this is his last match, I hope he doesn't go out with a pin. I think it would be good to see Rollins go out with that pin, and maybe that's who takes the spot against Big E at WrestleMania. But Kevin Owens is just too good to let WWE let him go.
Speaking of which, you brought it up. We have Roman Reigns versus Brock Lesnar. I would have liked to have seen they actually go with
Sami versus him
versus Roman Reigns. I would have liked to have seen that match, although I knew that Sami Zayn would be losing.
Yes,
for sure. I think Sami Zayn's done some great promo work. He's great in the ring. He's just doing everything WWE has made him do, but that's a problem with this. I just feel like Sami Zayn deserves a little bit more far as being in that main event picture. So I felt like he just kind of got shafted there. I would have liked to have seen a match.
Yeah, the problem with I'll make this quick. The problem with taking him out of that match and not doing it at day one is you run the risk, because what it seems like is we're going to get Lesnar and Reigns again.
That's happening, yeah.
Which is fine. I haven't been opposed to any of their matches. But when it's two guys who are bigger guys and more powerhouse wrestlers, you can't do much that's going to differentiate from your past matches. And we've seen this match so many times Now we're getting it again, in less than a month, and then probably again in 3 months. You run that risk. So I think if they would have done Zayn here, make it a little quick squash match. It doesn't even have to be the main event, on the pay-per-view, and then move into the Lesnar story. It would have been better, but I am assuming there will be some kind of screwy finish that will get, Lesnar in the Rumble, or Lesnar will be, involved in some way to where he gets that chance again at WrestleMania.
Okay. So here's the problem. They really haven't built anybody big enough to like every title match that WWE has with Roman Reigns. It should have me guessing like who's gonna win. Like I should be torn in conflict. It's just right now there's nope, they haven't built up anybody legitimate to take this belt off Roman Reigns. Roman Reigns has been doing such a good job too. He's on another stratosphere. Like he's finally hit his stride.
Yeah.
And I just don't know. Like, I mean, his reign has been so good that this reign could go on for 2 years.
This could go
on for 2 years. This has
starting
the potential
to become a little stale, just a little, and not because he's not doing good, because the character work, everything is great. It's like what you just said. There's just nobody to challenge him. I mean,
and now if you have Brock Lesnar win,
then you're repeating what you've been doing for the last 7 years.
Yeah. Is the fans going to get frustrated again for him not showing up as often?
In the WWE title match with Biggie, you could make a case for all three of Biggie, Seth Rollins, and Kevin Owens walking away with the title. We haven't been able to make a solid case for Roman Reigns to lose since the pay-per-view after, SummerSlam when he came back in 2020. Almost a year and a half ago.
I mean, I think last year around this time, the spot to take it off Roman would have been maybe having Kevin Owens beat him. They had 4 matches together.
Yeah. Especially that
4 matches together
the Royal Rumble match.
Span. Kevin Owens probably should have won the title, but that's WWE logic for you.
Yeah. He could have won it at the Royal Rumble and then, do the... Even Daniel Bryan has said he didn't want to be in that triple threat. He didn't think it made sense. Throw in Kevin Owens instead of Bryan. It would have made a lot more sense, and you could go into WrestleMania with a new title holder, other than Roman. But yeah, I agree with you, man. It's
So that's what I think is going to happen. I think we might get Brock Lesnar winning at Mania, winning it at Rumble, dropping it at Mania. Or you could have Lesnar winning at WrestleMania and then losing SummerSlam. I don't know. I don't know what they're waiting for. I mean, obviously they want to do Rock versus Brock eventually. I don't think we're getting that this year. I think it's definitely going to be LA.
You mean Rock versus Reigns?
Oh yeah. What did I say?
Rock versus Brock.
Okay, so
I mean, going back 19 years, man.
Although that'd be pretty cool.
Hey,
But it makes no sense right now.
I'd be okay with that. Hey,
but we could see Rock versus Roman Reigns.
Yeah.
Very well could see that, but I'm not too sure if we're gonna get it at this WrestleMania. I have a feeling we're gonna probably get it for LA for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, we'll definitely have seen it for LA, WrestleMania 39. But speaking of The Rock, they have a whole dedication Survivor Series to him, and he doesn't even show up.
What a stupid,
25th anniversary. I was at the 25th, the first ever Survivor Series that The Rock was.
That's what I'm saying. It's just like, obviously,
makes no sense. Why even bother?
Even last year with the 30th anniversary of Undertaker, obviously with the limitations of having no fans, it was, they did what they could. But even then, it was definitely still kind of undervalued, it seemed. But how can you build a whole show, especially a show that's been floundering for 10 years, hasn't really been a good, consistent pay-per-view? You build it up with this whole, hey, probably one of the biggest the biggest star across both, real life, real world, and wrestling, like the combination. It's the 25th year anniversary of him, but he's not going to show up. That's just the one thing that's like one of the things about WWE. It's just like, come on, like you have it. This is an easy moneymaker for them to just say, hey, The Rock's going to be here, whatever. And they didn't show up. They dropped the ball with that one. So yeah, it's I
believe there was some fans that showed up in Brooklyn expecting him The Rock.
Not.
Yeah, because I would have. I thought, I was telling my friends earlier that day. I'm like,
I
think The Rock is showing up tonight.
Yeah, why wouldn't it be? I mean, come on, we've had Cena, we've had Edge, we've had Punk come out on Taker. There's been some surprise returns this year. It would have
Taker showed up for his 30th anniversary Survivor Series, if I'm not mistaken.
With no fans.
No fans.
Yeah.
So, moving on. We touched on this a little bit earlier. Becky Lynch versus Liv Morgan. That will be for the Raw Women's title.
I like the upset here.
This is according to CBS Sports now, because they announced, which is I found it kind of weird, but this Monday is Becky Lynch versus Liv Morgan.
Yes.
So I'm wondering if that match somehow gets scrapped, thrown out because of disqualification or something, and then the payoff match would be January 1st. Again, this is according to CBS Sports, has it listed Becky Lynch versus Liv Morgan, but watching Raw, they announced that match for this Monday.
Yeah.
So I guess I guess maybe it's penciled in for now. I don't know if it's official, but we're definitely getting Becky Lynch versus Liv Morgan this Monday night. I don't see Liv Morgan losing the title here, but I could see Liv Morgan winning the title on January 1st.
Yeah. I think you hit it right on the head right there. I think a upset win, it's a new pay-per-view, new year. I think, honestly, what I'd love to see, don't think it'll happen. Bryn, let's bring back the exclusive pay-per-view sets, a different one for each show, something interesting. It's a new year, new pay-per-view, but I think that's the time to bring in a new champion. And if you're going to move any of the belts, I think Becky is the champion right now who could lose the belt and not lose her spot. She's going to be at the top of the card all the time, and you need to build a new star. And I feel like Liv Morgan's promo this week was really, really good, and it allows her to kind of, get over with the crowd, obviously. And I think she's done a really good job with that the past few months, and I think the time's right. If you're going to create a new star, Liv Morgan is probably one of the top 3 best examples in the entire company to go with.
She did very well with considering that her promo and Becky's promo was all scripted. Didn't make any sense, but they did good with what they had.
Yeah.
So I'm actually a little excited to see Liv Morgan against Becky. It's a new feud that we haven't seen.
Yeah. Seems like we've been saying that a lot.
And I noticed, all of a sudden, I feel like Rhea Ripley is in Goober status a little bit.
Yeah.
She's not even being talked about. She's really not even in her and Nikki lost their tag titles not long ago. So I feel like she's kind of falling away a little bit.
It seems like you're, the number 1 contender one week, and then you're, in the doghouse the next. Just the way it works in WWE, it seems.
It's looking like we'll see Charlotte Flair versus Toni Storm at day 1 for the Women's SmackDown title. I want to see these two go. I think Toni's a great athlete. I like to see her comeuppance. We've seen Charlotte Flair throwing pie at Toni Storm last week. 2 pies. A little bit of hokey. Vince McMahon was loving every bit of that and laughing.
A little bit.
Yeah. Vince was probably chuckling in the back watching.
Yeah, him and Bruce were knocking some back. Him, Bruce, and Kevin were all getting crazy back there.
Yeah. So and then Tony Storm got Charlotte Flair back. So I'm wondering this could be the spot where listen, the Raw Women's title may not even change, and maybe we get Tony Storm winning that title. You know how WWE likes to take the belt off Charlotte and then get the belt back on her as soon as possible to pad those numbers. So I can see Tony getting an upset here.
Now let's take my biased opinion out of this and know that I would be 100% okay with Charlotte losing the title. I think all of our viewers know that, and they also know that I'm a big fan of Tony Time. I've been a big proponent of the push for Tony Storm for a long time, ever since she's been in NXT. But I don't know if you do the change here. I just don't think Tony Storm's been built up well enough.
And we still got time. We still have about 4 weeks.
Course. Yeah, there's gonna have to be a big change in the story for me to see them changing this title over the Raw Women's title, and I think that's not based on skill or anything. I think Tony Storm is, like you said, she's fantastic, but I just think Liv Morgan's been a more prominent player on the main roster for a better amount of time, a longer amount of time, that it makes more sense for her to be the one to walk away with the title versus Tony. But hey, man, like I said, I'd be okay if Charlotte lost the title. I'm not the biggest fan of Charlotte as champion, as if nobody's noticed.
Moving on, penciled in. It looks like we could be getting RK Bro versus the Dirty Dogs for the tag titles.
Gosh.
That was again according to CBS Sports. I did not see it announced on WWE website yet.
Here.
We just saw that match on Raw last week.
Yeah, RK Bro, it's not losing it here, but they lose at the Rumble. They got to set up the WrestleMania feud at some point.
Oh yeah, I mean, they could maybe even drag it out to Elimination Chamber.
Yeah,
if they're doing Elimination Chamber, and
they don't
do a split between Randy and Riddle and have the two go 1-on-1.
Yeah.
So that we got our eyes on for sure. And the last thing to cover on WWE before we move on to a little AEW is I'm saying it right now. If this wasn't listed anywhere, at least from what I saw, I would say look for the New Day to challenge the Usos for their SmackDown WWE titles.
Yep, I agree with you. I don't know, man. That one's just so tough to call. It just seems like whenever these two teams fight, like, it really is a 50-50. I think you could go with the momentum with the New Day, Kofi just returning, and obviously Xavier winning the King of the Ring. And the Usos have been phenomenal this year. I think even stretching into last year when Jay was on his solo run. They've both been doing a really good job. This one's a toss-up, man. I'm going to go with the Usos because I think the Bloodline storyline can still stick into WrestleMania, and I wouldn't be opposed if we saw this match again at WrestleMania. So I'm all for it. Let's give the Usos a win and then have a rematch in a ladder match at WrestleMania.
Another thing I also want to hit up on the attendance, and I mean we could probably touch on it again. But WWE's really got to merge the product. They gotta do away with this brand split.
Yeah,
I'm just trying to figure out how it'll benefit the tag team division. It'll benefit the women's division. I'm okay with an IC title and a US title. I'm okay with that. And then kind of have most of the wrestlers stay where they are, and then some crossovers. But they really got to do away with the brand split. They really, again, their attendance has been suffering. Although last night on in their show SmackDown, it looks like they had a pretty good
but that could
draw.
I think that could be a little attributed because Lesnar was going to be there.
Yeah. So they gotta allow more crossovers.
You can tell stories with each person on the roster without making them red versus blue. Man, they were doing red versus blue when I was a kid.
Yeah, they did it,
2000
and then they got away from it, then they brought it back.
2004, I think, was the first time I ever watched the Survivor Series. Like, I think I bought that year's pay-per-view, and I want to say that was the first year I was like really into it. And we're still doing red versus blue. Like
It doesn't make sense.
It doesn't
WWE
make
has real competition they need to worry about rather than competing within themselves for the brand split that's hurting and not helping their product. But anyway, I digress. We can talk about that more at a later date.
Nobody believes in the red versus blue. We're all under one company.
Yeah, this is
Just
why Survivor Series has become one of the worst pay-per-views of the year.
Yeah, we're just like us. We're not biased towards one company. You know, we shit on both, or at least try to, and we're all under one thing. We're all just wrestling fans. Like, we need to not have the, oh, this is better than that. You know, this company's better. This side of the company's better. This part of the roster. No, dude. If you're not putting on a good product, you're not putting on a good product.
For sure. Yeah, moving on to AEW. Got a couple of moments left. We have Hangman defending his title against Daniel Bryan. Daniel Bryan is the number one contender from winning that tournament. So we have Daniel Bryan challenging Hangman, which would be at Winter is Coming, not this Wednesday, but the Wednesday after.
Yes, yeah.
Feel free to do an aftermath of that show.
Hopefully, there's no way I'm not.
That.
There's no way I'm not. Not after last year. I can't. I know I got Wednesday off that day. That night at least. So, yeah, man. I'm expecting a little. I'm just gonna call the shot. I think we'll get a little undisputed on Winter is Coming. It'll be a little interesting.
I am so glad that they turned Daniel Bryan heel. He's just doing such a good job. I wasn't too sure if people would be invested in a Hangman versus Miro as a first challenger of Hangman's title reign. But I was like, I don't know if they could go down, face versus face, and then sure enough, they decide to turn Daniel Bryan heel, and it's amazing. He does such a good job.
He's the kind of person that, like, he plays a heel, and he plays such a good heel that it's almost like, okay, where did this come from? I remember thinking during his the Earth Champion days, like, this is not the Daniel Bryan I've been used to for the past 8 years. And they bring it back here again. And like you said, I think a lot of people were a little reluctant for what seemed like it was going to be a face versus face confrontation. And they turned Bryan heel. He's doing some of the best work of his career. It's going to lead to Hangman getting a really, really big first win as champion. And, AEW's hitting it out of the park with their champion. At least the world championship. I know Tony Khan came out and said he knew who the first 4 champions were. Man, if he's planning that out 2 years in advance, I want to know who he's thinking is going to be the next ones, because there's some talent there, and I'm really excited to see where Hangman's championship reign goes after this first match with Bryan. But yeah, man, this one is going to be a barn burner. I'm expecting something along the lines of last year's. Same place. Winter is Coming. We saw Moxley versus Hangman, a title change.
Hey, listen, we may see an appearance.
I'm telling you, I'm calling my shot, man. I'm saying
who's showing up.
We're getting a little undisputed, man. I think the entire Undisputed Era outside of Roderick, because obviously he's a little tied up. I think Kyle O'Reilly makes the show.
The only reason why I say he might not make the show is because of the 90-day clause.
Yes,
if that's in his contract. But I'm thinking.
But we saw with Miro.
I think eventually we'll see Undisputed Era altogether on AEW.
Sorry,
I think that's happening.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, again, if something happens like Malachi Black, I mean, that could very well happen. But I'm thinking maybe Bray Wyatt.
Now that would be big. That would be really big.
I mean, maybe we have
how they implement him. I don't know.
Maybe we have Bray Wyatt and Dark Order turn on Hangman, and then we have Hangman's next opponent.
Okay, I like that. I think you got to build up. The thing is you can't keep relying on, hey, we're going to bring in this new guy. He's going to be the immediate number one contender. And then he's just going to kind of sit in the mid card. If we're going to build up some of those guys. Now, Bray Wyatt is a little older than a guy like Malachi Black or a guy, like Ty Dillinger. I couldn't think of a younger guy that they've brought in, but these guys that you're bringing in from WWE, you gotta make sure that you're constantly building their character and not just saying, hey, here's a new guy, new face. You know who this is. Championship match, he loses, then he's back in his normal spot. You gotta kind of balance
I think
that
they
out.
would. I think they would too.
And I think that the hey man, Malachi Black and Bray Wyatt, if they bring him in, Bray Wyatt as a supernatural character, sign me up. I mean, please, like that would be fantastic, especially with the production value that the AEW brings.
So really quick, we had Dynamite on, and by the way, if I hadn't said it already, I say Hangman will win. So he ain't losing that title.
Guaranteed.
If this were like 6 months from now and Hangman was still the champion, then I'd be like, okay, this possibility is a huge chance.
Yeah.
But anyway, Dynamite. So a couple, one or two things here before we go off the air. We had Cody versus Andrade.
I caught the end of this. Yeah.
Yeah.
I caught the end live is what I meant. I turned it on the last like 10 minutes.
It was a nice visual to see the table on fire. But
it just
Cody took like 99% of that fall.
Yeah.
And then Andrade takes the loss.
And Andrade's like kind of like squirming around on the bottom when you can clearly see like Cody has like parts of his body that are still on fire.
His body was still on fire as he was pinning Andrade.
On fire, but he had like pieces from the table that were still like burning.
Yeah.
Like I think he's put it
like Andrade didn't catch any of that from what I saw. And Cody caught 100% of that just about.
I think this is a really good example of what I was just alluding to is, hey, we brought in Andrade. You know who he is. You're a wrestling fan.
They messed up that spot.
Here's a big, first match, and then he's just Andrade now. Like he's just kind of there, and that's fine. But
they had a great showing. That was a great match.
It was a good match. That table spot just seems so unnecessary.
To me, I think they messed it up.
Yeah,
they messed it up. Andrade didn't catch much of that table.
Think of some of the best like fire table spots, like
Edge Foley.
WrestleMania
22.
Dudley's, some of their matches from ECW One Night Stand, Dudley's versus Edge and Christian, matches that have had good storylines, long-term rivalry. This one's been going on for 3 weeks, and we get a flaming table spot, great visual. I think it came off well. It definitely gave it a little bit more of a better reaction than I think Cody would have gotten, which stinks to say because I know they were in his hometown.
Cody got a huge standing ovation.
Yes.
From what I heard after everything went off the air.
Yeah.
Cody Rhodes was getting an ovation,
which I think comes from the fact that he was in his hometown.
He was being booed throughout the match, but afterwards,
that's the thing.
What you don't see on TV, he was getting a standing ovation.
It was unnecessary to me. Just it looked good, but it just didn't really feel like it needed to be in that spot, like in that match, for a match that just kind of came out of nowhere.
Well, Tommy, that pretty much covers everything that we needed to talk to.
Yeah, man.
There's a bunch of stuff going on this weekend with NXT War Games. I have to be transparent with everybody. I have no clue what's going on NXT. I'll probably watch at some point, but I have not really been personally connected to watching it.
Okay, I'll make it quick. I don't think you need to know anything that goes into this match.
I will tell you, though. I will tell you, because I do know we got Ciampa Gargano, which is probably his last match.
Yeah.
Pete Dunne, and there's one other person that I'm missing. No, No, Kyle O'Reilly's in the tag title match.
It's
Who's that fourth guy?
said Gargano,
Ciampa. Pete
Ciampa,
Dunne.
Pete Dunne. I'm pulling it up right now.
Who am I missing?
Oh, LA Knight. LA Knight.
LA Knight. Okay. Going against the
NXT,
new guys.
The original NXT star
Yeah.
himself, LA Knight.
Yeah. Going against the new guys.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm watching like a WrestleMania 23 match. Team ECW versus the New Blood.
Oh,
But
my
anyway.
goodness. Yeah, Matt Striker's coming out with Elijah Burke.
Oh, God.
Goodness gracious.
Against Braun Breaker and a couple of other
Grayson
up-and-coming
Walker.
guys.
Grayson Waller. I think it's Tony D'Angelo and Carmelo Hayes, I think is the team.
Okay. I think you're right.
So yeah, who's winning? NXT 1.0 or 2.0?
I have a feeling this is Vince booking 2.0.
There's no way that you can't do 2.0.
2.0.
You can't make the big change if you're gonna make. I mean, you're making Braun Breaker. He's gonna be a star in his own. He's Steiner.
Yeah, he's probably gonna get called up very soon. Probably Royal Rumble.
He's fantastic, but you got 3 other stars that you can make pretty damn quickly in a big match against some of the. Hey, no disrespect to LA Knight, but he's not an NXT original. But 3 of the best like NXT UK originals and guys that could probably give you the best matches, in the company. There's just no point in not letting NXT 2.0 win, and I think you could even say the same for the women's side. I'd like to see Toxic Attraction and
I think that's happening too.
Yeah,
I think that's happening too. I think the tag titles probably remain the way they are.
Yeah, I like Imperium. Yep.
Yeah.
I think Von Wagner's a good piece, but if O'Reilly's leaving, no point obviously putting the tag titles on them, and Imperium could be a good piece for the next a big name for the next team to win.
Yeah.
Whoever that young team is.
I definitely have NXT 2.0 winning the 2.0 side. Keep in mind, Gargano's last match is probably tomorrow night. Ciampa's not that far behind him. Pete Dunne is already on a contract. I don't know why he resigned, unless maybe they have a bigger plan for him. So it just remains to be seen with that. But that pretty much wraps up our show.
Jeez.
Yeah. So this is episode 76. Make sure you guys are subscribed.
Yeah, man.
Those of you guys who are listening, we're on YouTube, Twitter, iTunes, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and more. Make sure you're subscribed. We'll keep you guys up to date on our new changes that we'll be making to our podcast over the next couple months. We'll definitely let you guys in on that. We're also thinking about episode 77 next week. An aftermath episode right after Winter is Coming the following week. So we got some good.
We're gonna do a follow up for AEW. This week, going on Thursday, whether that's right after AEW or Thursday morning. It'll be a quick little rundown. It might just be me hosting that one, but yeah, man, we're excited. We got some exciting things coming up for the end of the year. Going into next year. It seems like we were just having this conversation a few months ago, or a few weeks ago, talking about, hey, we're getting ready for 2021, and here we are, man. Here we are.
I know we are halfway through season 2. Season 3 is upon us in about 5 months from now.
Jeez, man.
Season 3.
That's
episode
crazy.
100 will be looming not too far after that. So a lot of good stuff coming up. So make sure you guys are subscribed. Those of you guys that are listening through Spotify, iTunes, iHeartRadio, make sure you guys subscribe to the YouTube channel.
Yeah.
So we can give you some more content. And those of you that are already subscribed, make sure you guys share with your friends, your family, their pets, and what have you. Make sure everybody knows. But that pretty much wraps up our show. Tommy, do you have anything else for us before we go off the air?
No, man. I think we hit it all. Excited, man. Excited for Winter's Coming. Excited for day one. Excited for Deep Six Pro Wrestling Podcast. And
I'm hoping day one is a reboot. I'm hoping that day one is they hit a little reset button.
I'm telling you, man. they if they brought out exclusive pay-per-view sets again, they would it'd go a long way.
For sure. Alrighty, guys. Those of you guys that are watching, you guys have an awesome rest of the weekend, and we will see you guys soon. Have a good day.
Have a good one, guys.